Happy Friday, everybody. We're here to talk about WandaVision episode 3. And here to join me, as they will be doing through the entirety of the WandaVision series, is my buddy Eric. What's up, Eric?
Hi.
And my buddy Thomas. What's up, Thomas?
Howdy ho, neighbors.
Oh, let's hop into it, man. This episode, by the way, everybody, spoiler warning, we will be discussing WandaVision episode 3. So if you have not watched WandaVision episode 3, please do not watch this. Go watch WandaVision episode 3 and then watch this on the replay. If you have thoughts about WandaVision episode 3, I would love to hear them. Put them in the chat. We'll pull them up on the screen. And make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel on Reflect Media for all things Reflex. Okay. Holy crap, this episode was good.
Just right off the bat.
I feel like it just started, like this show just really started with this one. So they released the first 2 episodes last week, but for critics, they released the first 3 episodes. And I think they did that for a reason, because you need the 3rd episode to really hook you. So all the critics were saying, stick around, wait for episode 3. And sure enough, episode 3 comes and it is knocking our socks off. So let's hop into it. Thomas, you did a great job with the recap last week. Why don't you lead our recap for us?
Oh, great. Because I just watched it like half an hour ago. Woo! So that's right. WandaVision episode 3, now in color. We got episode titles now, which is great. Personally, I love when TV shows really use episode titles. I think that's a fun way to get you into the world, and sometimes give you some clues.
Joy says you have an appropriate background, Thomas.
Thank you. This is the actual Brady Bunch background.
Yes, it is.
They modeled WandaVision off of this. So speaking of Brady Bunch, we are now living in color in the 70s, right? Late 60s, early 70s, with all this style, and it looks great. I think a great intro.
Yes. Love the theme song.
That was great.
Love the theme song. So I'm really excited to see how those progress further and further.
I loved it because it was like a mixture of the Partridge Family and Brady Bunch with the opening sequence.
Right. Now I also think it went on a bit too long. And I think that was on purpose. We talked about that last week. The things linger and they're a little unsettling. And so I think the song, or maybe I'm just not used to the length of the intros of that era. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was a problem, but at some point I was like, all right, I get it. She's pregnant. And this show, if it were its own running show, would just be about this couple dealing with the pregnancy. Like,
see, you're from the era where theme songs are like 30 seconds an hour.
Right. I was about to say, like, didn't a lot of old shows of that era have like full like theme songs, like an actual melody, not just like a little, musical tag at the beginning?
Yeah,
I thought it went on a while, but I felt like it was appropriate to do so.
Absolutely. I'm also now with the 3rd episode, I'm noticing this honeycomb stylistic choice. It's definitely been there, but now that and Baby Makes 3, we've got a pattern. And so I wonder what that particular style choice means. Honeycombs in Marvel tend to be lent to advanced idea mechanics. So I wonder if now somehow we're subtly hinting at AIM being involved in this mess. We could have Sword, AIM, a bunch of rival science groups trying to either control Wanda or control the situation.
That's interesting. That could make sense too, because doesn't AIM kind of like take over for SHIELD at some point, like within the?
I think
AIM started out. Oh, sorry.
I think Eric, you're right. You're starting further back in the story than I am.
I was saying, like, it started out as like an evil, like, terrorist organization like Hydra, but in more recent comics, like, I believe Sunspot from the New Mutants actually took it over and was trying to redeem it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I definitely think that's their aim. Yeah, because it was always like SHIELD was, an international securities effort, and AIM was is scientific based, like it's the research thing, and it goes rogue in the way that men. What's Ultron say? Men create. Men of peace create weapons of war, like that idea. And then Hydra was just like straight up mad scientist. Like we're not even playing at, pretending that we're not crazy. So I think that's very interesting. And then we get this, what I think is a really nice, almost bottle episode of Wanda and Vision, because 90% of the episode is just the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
We have the doctor, we've got some of the jokes of, well, you're coming right along. It's 4 months. And now we realize that when we see a day of an episode, whatever time elapses in that episode is the amount of time that has elapsed for Wanda and Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says, what would 4 hours be? So it's been 4 hours since the world turned to color. Oh, 12 hours. 12 hours. Thank you. The world has turned to color, and Wanda was visibly pregnant, but not even not where she is. Yeah, when we see her in this moment with the doctor there.
Yeah, and she's 4 months pregnant in that first scene.
Yeah. So
she's 4 months of pregnancy in 12 hours.
Which is 12 hours.
Yeah. Very strange.
Very strange. Very strange. Yes. And Vision, I think it's interesting enough, seems to be the most off-put by the rapid pace. Wanda, while not like ignoring it, just sort of seems to let it flow.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going along with it.
Yeah, reveling a little bit more in the fact that she's pregnant and not worried so much about how it happened or the rate at which it's progressing. So Doctor takes off, and we set up the Doctor's leaving bit. So now we have our Chekhov's Doctor. He said, "I'm going to Bermuda," which definitely
Bermuda, baby.
Which means we're gonna need the Doctor again. And now we get our first for this episode, unsettling moment. We've seen them. We've now, we're creating this pattern of moments where the world is shifting slightly. We've got Herb, who is power sawing through the concrete.
And the divider, that was super weird.
Right. Now, what also makes it, I think, even weirder, especially for modern audiences, is that you can obviously tell that behind Herb is a matte painting. A matte set painting. It's obvious that about a foot behind where Herb is standing, the set ends. Which is just an interesting visual for modern audiences. We don't have that anymore. The sets are expansive.
Yeah, right? It's interesting because, like, in the first 2 episodes, because it's just a blank type of, like, background, you can't really tell that. And as you're becoming more and more aware that this is a facade, we're now in that era where they filmed this on a soundstage, and it's just, and now they have these matte painting backgrounds. It draws more attention to it, which is very interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
I feel like it being in color helps draw attention to it a lot more as well. In black and white, you can kind of get away with things sometimes, like
right.
It wouldn't be quite as glaringly obvious as in color. I think sometimes.
I think you're right. I think that's a good point. And again, it's and Vision, being the hyper intelligent mind that he is constantly putting pieces together and is unsettled.
Yeah, and you can tell he's just like, this doesn't add up, does it? And then she's like, oh no, everything's fine. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
Right.
I was just gonna say, I love that he went from like the sort of stereotypical befuddled husband whose wife is having a baby. He was very much in like sitcom mode at the beginning of the episode, but then when he's talking to the neighbor, he's gone from like slightly like humorously perplexed to like, okay, this is really weird and I am uncomfortable kind of sort of moment for him right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's super creepy.
We have the running gag of the baby names.
Which made me very happy because
always a good joke. Tommy versus Billy.
Tommy and Billy, they're the kids from the Young Avengers.
The kids from the Young Avengers, which is great, talking about who eventually become Wiccan and
Speed,
which I love Marvel, but I think more recently some of their superhero naming conventions are just sort of slipping.
That's fair. After like decades, you kind of run out, I think.
Right. Wiccan on it. Like, yeah, we're bringing in like a culture. It's mystic, it's magic, it's otherworldly, and then it's just Speed. It's like, Speed, what does he do? Ironically, he climbs walls. It's like the Ben Folds 5.
Yes, there's only 3 of them.
Exactly. So they have that debate. More use of the power, and then her power starts to go a little haywire. The pregnancies, or at this point, pregnancy, they don't realize that it's twins. The doctor just said, "You're pregnant," and said nothing more than that. Which, God, I hope that's not what it was like in the 60s and 70s.
I loved how like condescending the doctor was in that scene, and just how casually sexist about everything.
And it just would cut back to Wanda, and she just give him that eyebrow. Which I definitely think is the modern commentary on the classic.
Yes, and they don't do a lot. They do just enough to be like, that's stupid. Right. Moving on, right? He's just like, oh, we use fruit to explain it because it's easier for the ladies, and she's like,
it's easier. It's easier for everybody. Yeah. Visual representation is very easy to understand.
Yeah,
you can't tell me my baby's 10 centimeters, but you go like, here's an apple, and I'm like, I get that. Like that's just that to me. It's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Vision's dad jokes. Great.
Joy said lots of doctors are still that sexist in how they teach patients. That's insane. That's so sad.
I've done some work as a standardized patient with an unnamed company, and I can tell you that yes, we were play acting, but these were doctors in training, and it's real. There's and my female counterparts got it even worse. It's astounding how much you are not treated like a person. You're treated more like a machine, like a car to be diagnosed. It's a little baffling. But we're calling it out here. We're using Marvel using its platform to call out some of the inequity.
Yeah, I do appreciate that they always call it out when they do the thing. They're be it through a look or it's obvious that they're not glorifying that, but pointing out how stupid that was.
So then in the nursery, she builds the nursery. We put the mobile up, and the babies kick, and it sends her powers haywire, which is another thing that is a trope of women and pregnancy and powers. You see it in, I think, almost any time some character with superhuman abilities is pregnant. Almost certainly that pregnancy is gonna affect how the powers work in some way. It definitely if you think Lucille on CW's Flash.
Cecile. Yeah. Cecile,
thank you. Yeah. When she's pregnant, she, gains the ability of mind reading.
Speaking of which, because I'm actually watching the most recent season, season 4, right now. Did Joe and Cecile just sell that baby?
They don't show it very often. Yeah.
Really, yeah. Joe. What's the actor's name?
Jesse L. Martin.
Thank you.
Jesse L. Martin took time off that most recent season. So I think he was injured. So they kind of took all of the Joe Cecile plot lines and shoved them way in a dark corner because they couldn't.
Cecile's still there, and I ain't seen that baby. Just saying. Sorry.
Right. So she's got a great nanny.
Yeah, they're babysitters or something, probably.
But I digress.
It's Damian Wayne. He's the worst babysitter ever. But yeah, and even Bella in Twilight, she has the pregnancy, and then because of it, the vampire thing. So there's always this connection between women and pregnancy and the superhuman.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what that trope is trying to say.
I wouldn't know.
None of us are women, nor have been pregnant, so we can't really speak to how that, what kind of effect that has on all of your and on the whole body. I mean, I suppose it would make sense that it would have. Absolutely, if you have powers, that would also be affected.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perhaps, but that's also presupposing that women are writing these tropes.
True.
Often in science fiction and fantasy, that's a pretty male-dominated profession. So I'd be interested to hear from the writers what they were thinking about that. I think this is like one male writer, one female writer. I have to double check that.
Right.
I'd be interested to know what they were thinking about that. So. That seems interesting. We're seeing her powers going on the fritz, and that kind of becomes the theme for the rest of this episode. So we had that hiccup. Kevin, do not watch this. Kevin said, "Going to watch episode 3 tonight." If you have not watched it, please do not listen to what we're saying. We will spoil
all
it for
spoilers.
you.
All
please
spoilers,
go away. We appreciate your viewership,
away.
but leave until you've watched the episode. So what happens next?
So what happens next? It's the nursery, and then I think we have some like baby play jokes. Oh, we're in the kitchen, and he's reading. Now that's interesting. Vision's reading. The fact that Vision is reading, and this is not something that he can just like pull out of his brain, which in theory Vision is just hyper intelligent. So I think that lends a little credence to the idea that this is the vision of Wanda's mind.
Yeah,
because
it's definitely possible. I think it's also possible that wherever they are is cut off from the internet, and he can't just interface with any information that he wants at that moment.
Very true. That's another way to think about it. Because I think that like if it's the vision, because as we know he's gone. Wanda creates what she wants of Vision, which is the majority of which is him, right? Or him as she remembers and as we remember, but she doesn't fully understand who or what he is, just as the audience doesn't fully understand who or what he is as this synthezoid, Ultron, Tony, Banner, Mind Stone, vibranium creation, right?
Yeah.
There's no way, even in their months or years together between Civil War and Infinity War, I doubt that, because at that time, even Vision doesn't fully understand what he is.
And on that note, was this the first time they referred to him as a synthezoid? I don't remember that word coming up in the movies before.
I think
they've never used the term.
I know that's what they call him in the comics, but it's like, they used it.
Yeah. We have this really interesting comment here from Joy. Said a woman doesn't have to be pregnant to have her hormones go insane. That's also ableist against women who can't have children. But yes, hormones do affect the entire body, including powers. They make my Bindi powers, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, increased. But also, for those who believe in psychokinesis, hormones affect emotions, which affect PK abilities. That's interesting. Thank you for that comment, Joy. That's interesting. Hormones affecting.
I think in Ultron, he's just referred to as like synthetic, as a synthetic, life form and synthetic form that's being, built as the vibranium atoms, graph to create the skeleton, or however it's pulled together. But yeah, I think you're right. Synthezoid this is the first time we're getting that word in MCU canon, which is nice. Then we have the false contractions, which send like powers going even crazier. We're stepping up in her pregnancy very quickly.
Yes, and that causes all the power to go out in the entire town of Westview. neighborhood of Westview. And which leads to my favorite gag, which is once again the guy with the burly mustache. I love that guy so much, and I'm happy that it's continuing the pattern of him getting my favorite moment in each episode, where apparently he's married to Anya. I don't know what her name is on the show. I can't remember, but I just call her Anya because she's Anya. And she said, well, no, her character name, Emma.
Yeah,
I don't know what the character name is.
I don't remember.
But she comes in and says, "Does this dress make me look fat?" And then all the power goes out, and he goes, "Oh, thank God!" It's so good. I love that guy so much.
I'm loving this comic relief character that we have.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna say it. I hope he's in charge. I hope he's the head honcho.
That'd be amazing.
That's my pipe dream. He's fully. That's Mephisto. That's him right there. He needs his day of reckoning.
Yeah.
And then so the power goes out.
Mm-hmm. And the Braxton Hicks contractions signify that she's progressed even further in the pregnancy. So now he's estimating that she is at about 6 months.
Right, and that she's good. That then, with all of his calculations, the baby should be due by Friday.
Which doesn't make any sense because in like 14 hours, she's like 6 months pregnant.
Yeah,
it's like, where are you getting this math?
Rather, like that was a much longer time than I was expecting.
Yeah. That was that's a really weird moment. That's a very strange moment there.
Right. Well, sometimes you set up the joke to be able to forego the logic just because the joke works, and it does when it comes back and she is going into labor. I didn't think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
I didn't take into account the fluctuations of randomness in your pregnancy progression or whatever. I laughed out loud at the line. I don't remember verbatim, but I thought it was very funny.
Well, that paired with the flustering, and then like he's flying because he's freaking out, and she has to calm him down,
which again
is another trope.
Yeah, another trope of pregnancy. Every time the man, of course, goes beyond what the emotional state of the woman, just showing how powerful I think that the women are to both deal with birthing a human and taking care of a baby.
Joy says, "I want to see Wanda pissed off in perimenopause and knocking the power out again." That'd be amazing.
And you know what I thought about, because I watched the Legends episode of Wanda right before this, and when Pietro dies and she feels that, and just the wave of energy that disintegrates the bots, not just like destroys them, like erases them from existence. It's something we don't see her do. We haven't seen her do again, right? That amount of raw power, but we're seeing the escalation of it here, right? We're seeing how she can go from, spinning the spoon in the coffee pot, all the way to complete destruction.
Yeah,
which I think is great because as we all know, she's one of the most powerful characters in both the comics and in the MCU.
I mean, they say that, Captain Marvel is. I think there's an argument for saying that Wanda is. I mean, reality bending powers. There's not really much anybody, including Captain Marvel, can do against that. And we've seen her hold off Thanos with one hand while also destroying an Infinity Stone out of her lover's head, right? So I definitely think that she's the most powerful person in the MCU.
I think probably the only reason they don't classify her as such is that Wanda's still kind of discovering the extent of her powers and how to control them.
Yeah. Right. Whereas Carol has, as far as we can tell, a mastery over. Right. But it's funny you mentioned that, Thomas, because I just rewatched Age of Ultron right before WandaVision. And it's very interesting that scene, because that is like, you don't see it before, you don't really see it after, and that display of power is pretty intense. And so I clocked that too. I was like, I wonder if this was setting a seed for later on when they would use her reality bending powers. So I was like, did she just like make them so that they never existed? Like, what just happened?
It does. It looks annihilation level stuff, right?
Yeah.
Still focused on the object of her anger, but there you go. So then her water breaks, and it just rains. And I'm a sucker for a good visual pun. You know, I think that's great. Hey, Kitty.
Special guest star Ash.
Hey, Ash, how you doing? What do you think of the episode?
That's a running theme in our streams, where a cat like pops in on one of our hosts' screens. It happens with Stephanie all the time. We'll be talking, and Deacon will just walk into the screen and then just look dead at the camera. I'm like, yes, Deacon, what do you think?
Yeah, and if you hear any random noises in the background, that's my foster kitty, Susie.
You're fine. We don't mind kitties on this show, so
not at all.
Joy, and then makes Joy very happy. So,
and then we go to commercial. What did you guys think of this commercial?
Oh man,
it was very funny.
It's very funny, and I like that there's a shift, right? Because now we're into more like women liberation like time, and so you're seeing a kind of a shift. Before it was just like, is your woman burning your toast to like, you need a break? Like, you just need like to unwind. Yeah.
And we've particularly shifted from to very selling a product to the consumer, right? To selling an experience to the consumer. And both of them, at least, and then so like the toaster sold to women cooking, right? Like that's that angle. The Strucker watch, not as much. It's more the woman as an ornament kind of idea for the 50s and 60s. But this is definitely like selling the break to the mother, to the housewife, which is where Wanda is firmly planted.
Yeah.
As much as I love Paul Bettany and I love Vision, this is Wanda's series.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, absolutely.
He's doing great, and I'm sure we may get. I think we're gonna end up with a moment of like Vision in the TV show, like a true confrontation where he's like, "No, something's wrong, and you're ignoring it." And that's going to be, sort of his big moment. But this so far is Wanda's show. And I think these commercials are all aimed at her specifically.
Yeah. And I have more to say on that Vision Wanda front. I'm going to wait until we get a little bit further into the episode before I say some stuff about that. Yeah.
Anything, Eric, did you have anything else about the...
I was just going to say about the commercial. My only disappointment with it was that it was once again referencing Hydra. And I was hoping for like another like Easter egg of some other character or organization that would get a shout out, but it was still very, very funny and effective. And I agree with your point of like the shift in like the demographics of like who commercials were aimed at in the different eras.
So on that, I like that, but on that front, I think there's a reason why we're seeing what we're seeing in those commercials in terms of what the references are, because they're references that tie back to Wanda's
memories. Yeah, that's true.
Wanda, and I think everything is being formed from her memories. I think that it's just straight up her behind it. I know a lot of people are expecting Mephisto to show up, but like we've never had Mephisto in the MCU before, and I don't know when they would have the time to explain who and what Mephisto is. I think this is all Wanda.
I do too.
Yeah.
I just think Mephisto is too otherworldly. And otherworldly in a sense that we don't have a foundation for.
Right. It does not fit within the structure of what they did with Asgard.
Or the Dark Dimension. Like it doesn't, he's a being of hell.
Yeah, he's a demon.
Right. We kind of get it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but since Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't made it into the mainstream MCU, I just don't think it's
bothers me, but
or has it? I looked up who the beekeeper was.
Okay.
The beekeeper was a minor background character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Really?
See, to me, that is not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming into play. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has powerhouse Inhumans, right? And Ghost Rider, like big names that are the driving forces of the show, and the mainstream MCU has yet to acknowledge it. The only nod we've gotten is Edwin Jarvis in Endgame, right? And that, and it's like, that was cool, but like, you have Quake, you have you've got Yo-Yo, you've got all these different characters. Like, Mockingbird is out there somewhere. She just isn't a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore.
Yeah, there was a lot of internal politics going on between the movie and TV divisions for a lot of years, which I think is why we didn't see as many crossovers, and why it seems like Kevin Feige is now kind of disowning Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like the Netflix Marvel shows and anything that he wasn't directly involved with creating.
Right. Well, that's the fallout of the war between him and Ike Perlmutter. So,
right. Yeah.
So those are all casualties of that war for sure.
Before.
Except for, I think, Netflix, which it sounds like the Netflix stuff is going to come back into play.
Hopefully, yeah. Because when I heard that a lot of that, like that he was just kind of ignoring a lot that the TV division had done, I was kind of annoyed because that had all been billed from the start as this is part of the MCU, and like we would see little crossovers on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and we would see Agent Carter get her own show, and like there were connections, but just it never really reflected back in the movies, and that kind of, as a fan, that felt very frustrating to me, and like we were lied to a little bit. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation.
You lied to me. You were supposed to be the chosen one. Sorry.
My last bit my last bit about the commercial is, I think the Hydra cube is obviously a Tesseract reference. It's the Hydra cube. It's obvious that Marvel and comic books and film and stuff. We a lot of times you talk about having a recognizable silhouette, right? You put the Hulk in silhouette and you instantly know who it is. So I think like you put a cube on screen for Marvel, instantly everybody goes Tesseract. That's what that is. Especially it was blue, right? We're using the same color imagery, so they're definitely leaning that way. To what end? I'm in Maui's camp of, or I think it's everybody's camp on here, of it being formed from Wanda's memories specifically, or informed by that.
Yeah.
So we come back and they're under the table, kind of waiting out the rain, which also looks like it may have hailed. There's deposit on the ground. Some quick jokes. She dries herself off with a gust of wind from outside that blows Vision back. Like Vision,
he's doing some great physical comedy there.
Great physical comedy, but caught him off guard a little bit. He couldn't just make himself intangible or make himself sturdy. He gets blown back.
Yep, I'll be right back.
Okay.
And it also kind of speaks to like Wanda's growing power and what she's capable of now.
Absolutely. And then I think we go into full contractions, right? No.
I think Geraldine had entered at that point, right?
Well, right, but Vision leaves because he has to go get the doctor.
Oh, right, yes, because the contractions had started.
It was time to get the doctor, and he rushes off to get the doctor, and Geraldine arrives, and now we're seeing some more footage from promotionals from the trailers, and I'm always interested how they edit the trailers to make us think something, and then what we actually see in the film. That all goes back to Infinity War, where we got that great final shot in the final trailer for Infinity War of the Avengers rushing out of the forest with the Hulk. And then, as we all know, Infinity War, there is no Hulk.
Yeah.
So I'm always now, anytime Marvel's gives me promotional material, I always go, okay, what is going to be different when we get to the show? And we do get this moment, because in the promotional material, she comes in, she's like, oh, hey, Wanda. And then she's like, I don't know. And it makes it seem like those moments are really close together. Whereas we know now in the show, they're really separated.
Yeah.
And now we play a great game of keep away with a pregnant belly.
Yes. Another classic trope. Often you see actresses that are expecting, covering up their pregnancy with fruit or with anything that they can to have in front of them.
Behind a couch.
Using coats.
They did that with Colby Smulders, actually, in How I Met Your Mother.
How I Met Your Mother, yeah. She and as Maria Hill is a character that I hope comes back. I always liked her interactions with the team. In my head, the first three I think of are Tony and Cap and Natasha, and they're all gone. But I really enjoyed her on the team, and I was sad that we didn't actually get to see her in Infinity War or Endgame.
I wouldn't be surprised though if we see her in this. That would not surprise me at all.
Right,
I could see her being high up in Sword, because it feels like Sword is kind of replaced.
If Fury is off in space with Skrulls on that, she could be the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. as she is in the current comics run.
Could be, yeah. Maybe he's leading Sword and she's leading S.H.I.E.L.D. That could be really cool.
Right. Digress. So we're playing Keep Away, and then we play Keep Away with a stork, with a real stork. I mean, it looked CG, but
within the context of the show, a real stork.
It's a real stork. You never know. Sometimes you could get the real animal trained well.
I feel like that bit goes on a little too long, and not too long in the unsettling way, too long in the let's
sure. I thought the payoff of him of the stork biting her pants that had fish on them, for some reason, that tickled me. So I was like,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I felt the same way, because the minute she walked in, I was like, "Are those fish on her pants? That's a fashion choice, okay?" And then it was kind of, they hung a lampshade on it. It's like, "Oh yeah, here's the stork that's gonna go after the fish." It's like, "Oh, okay, that's why you're doing that."
Right. But I think some really stellar acting from her. I need names. I hate not referring to people by name.
So like Tamika Price or something like that. Tanisha Price or something like that.
I don't
know. I thought she was really good in that sequence. All the stuff with Geraldine and Wanda in this episode is really, really good. Then the stork bit was good. I was happy when we get past the stork bit. I have seen some people pointing to the fact that the stork could be Mephisto, because when she tried to make the stork go away, there was a red plume of smoke, and then it stayed
still there.
I thought
stretching a little.
Yeah, to me that red plume was Scarlet, and it was her, just the manifestation of her power in that moment, trying to poof the thing away. Right? It's a very magic tropey thing. You go poof and it goes away, but he flaps his wings and it's still there. Oh, and it's Teyana Paris.
Teyana Paris.
Yeah, Parris. I assume is Paris. Unfortunately, they don't provide pronunciation guides on Google.
Good actress. She was also in
Chirac. I loved her. Just the story and the babble and the playing it so straight, so that Elizabeth Olsen has the stuff to play off of, which is a skill. It really is it's a great skill. And there's an unsettling moment there as well in the middle of that story, and then she jumps right back into it. Which again, so that's our second unsettling moment in the world.
What was the first?
The first was the neighbor cutting through. I can't remember the neighbor's names. The black man cutting through the thing. And so this
yes, there's one more that we skipped actually. Vision is talking to Wanda, and then he's just like, no, he's like, Wanda, something is wrong here. Something is not right. There is he does directly confront her about something being off in this town. Right. And then it glitches, and then he says the same line over again, but then without the confrontation, and it's super, super unsettling. I was really confused. I was like, did something just happen to my TV?
I thought the same. I was like, okay, whoa, was my computer glitching? Did it just jump back a few seconds? I was like, wait, that was Wanda.
Right. Don't adjust the colors on your TV set. It's just it happened very quickly, and it's that same thing. It's that no moment. I definitely think that was Wanda resetting the world.
Yeah.
And then we have this moment again with Geraldine, and then we'll have another one with Geraldine soon.
Right. So we go. Geraldine discovers, Geraldine turns around and sees Wanda, who drops the plant because now the contractions are here. The baby is coming. Meanwhile, Vision has reached the doctor, and of course, the doctor's car hasn't started because we need the plot says the doctor needs to stay here. And Vision runs, and so Vision ran through town at super speed, just as in his disguise, but still, flagrantly using his powers. So and then carries the doctor, who, when the doctor arrives, just to finish this thread, is perturbed by the fact that they moved super quick, but like not freaked out that Vision can run that fast.
Yeah. Right. And simultaneously, like, things are going haywire within the house, and Geraldine is just kind of brushing it off because, we got to focus on the
explanation for all of this.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going along with it.
Right. So there we go. Yes, and we're at the home birth. She doesn't even make it to the couch. We're gonna have this baby right here, right now, behind this conveniently placed couch. So we can do the, just the look under the dress. Oop, we're ready to go. Reveal. Because of course Geraldine knows how to deliver a baby.
And apparently there's no umbilical cord, and the baby is already swaddled.
Umbilical cords weren't invented until 1990. They were.
Babies came pre-swaddled prior to the 90s.
Nice and clean. I'm sure the first television depiction of a baby that looked like a baby does coming out of utero is 1990 at the earliest.
Probably. That wouldn't surprise me. But I gotta say, that was a really beautiful baby. I want to smell that baby. They need to have smell-o-vision. We need smell-o-vision so I can smell that baby. Marvel, let me smell that baby.
It could be a half baby. Probably Scrubs fans.
Right. And I think, again, some more beautiful, beautiful acting from Elizabeth Olsen when she holds her son for the first time. Just a wonderful, wonderful moment as the doctor and Vision arrive. And Geraldine goes, all right, let's give mom and dad a minute. And Vision greeting his son as himself, which I was like, oh, like she said it, because I was ready for him to just stay in the human disguise and I wouldn't have thought anything of it, but she really, I was like, oh yeah. Now it's even more poignant, more powerful, for him to be accepted as he is, and especially by his son Tommy.
Which Vision says, which is the
name that Wanda had picked,
right?
And we get the classic studio audience. Aww.
That scene made me tear up.
Was this one actually filmed in front of a live studio audience like the first one?
I don't know.
They didn't say it. I was hoping they would say at the beginning, WandaVision was filmed in front of a live studio audience. They didn't give us one of those. So no, I don't think it was.
There's definitely like a laugh track and audience reactions throughout.
Sure. We have some press releases and stuff that talk about how they actually filmed the first episode in front of a live studio audience. The cameramen and crew were all dressed in character in 50s, you know, the cameras they shot it with were the big honking, cameras. Also having Dick Van Dyke as a consultant on the show, and him not really knowing what he was consulting. But it was great, and we see that it works. They're telling all these visual animators, these special effects guys, okay, you've made Vision fly in Ultron or whatever, but now we need you to make these paper cards float. Here's some fishing wire. like figure it out, because nobody's done that effect in 30 plus years, right? Nobody knows how to do it anymore. But yeah, so we have this beautiful moment, and then the comedy of it's twins.
Actually, stirred up again.
And she just screams. For comedy, totally downplaying like the actual labor and the intensity of what birth is. It's because it's usually multiple hours. But again, it's if anything, we think it's Wanda's idealized version of. I think it's a battle between Wanda's idealized version of things and also her want to make it seem real so that it continues to work. Because paradise gets old real fast. So now we've got both babies. We've got Tommy and Billy.
And before we go further, real quick, I want to make sure that people know about this. The scene where she says, "Oh, I want to name the kid Tommy," and then Vic's like, "Oh, I want to name the kid Billy," like William Shakespeare, and then he says a quote that's very interesting. What's it? All the world's a stage, and women are
players,
merely players, which is kind of what's happening.
In
this show. So I thought that was very interesting. So I just wanted to make sure that to point that out. All right, so moving forward.
I think we have another like not another commercial, but a cut. We do a time jump, and the doctor and the doctor leaves, and Vision walks the doctor outside, and Vision overhears her.
Oh, wait! Before you get to that, though, the doctor says something very interesting too. Before he leaves,
the doctor. Now we're in the beginning of the protracted third weird world shift. Right? The doctor says it's very difficult to escape from small towns.
Yeah, he's like, "Are you going to go on your vacation now?" He's like, "No, I don't think we are going to. You know how it is. So hard to escape." And there's this slight tremor of terror on his face when he says that. Oh,
yeah, we're getting more of those Pleasantville vibes, more of those nothing, everything is not what it seems. And then Vision, while reeling with that, overhears Herb and Agnes, thank you, whispering, not doing a very good job of it because he's on the other side of the on the other side of the yard, but he hears them whispering, and they're whispering, as we are able to suss out, about Geraldine, knowing that Geraldine is in there with Wanda, and they don't want that for whatever reason. So Vision goes and investigates, and so now we sort of cut back and forth between Wanda and Geraldine looking at the babies, and having a conversation that moves into the odd, where, of course, well, first I have to say Elizabeth Olsen singing in Sokovian, wonderful. I love remembering that she's not American, because every other hero besides those from Wakanda, of which we have precious few, are.
Well, Black Widow is ostensibly Russian, but you couldn't really.
Right, she's been working for Americans for so long that I doubt that Natasha would say she was Russian anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so, because this is now this is sort of like the second mention and reference to the fact that she is Sokovian, or that she really had this life before becoming the Scarlet Witch.
I was hoping in this scene when because she's singing and she says before she starts singing Sokovian, I was a twin.
Mm-hmm.
I had a brother, Pietro, and I was hoping that she would slip into her Sokovian accent.
Oh, that would
she did a little bit. I thought she did.
Just when she said Pietro, but it wasn't enough for me. And she was singing in Sokovian, but when she started talking to Geraldine again, I was hoping that she would really
get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because and as she's singing this, when Geraldine says he was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?
Yeah. And then suddenly the wall is broken and it's like, what did you say?
Yeah, and everything is kind of shattered in that moment.
We haven't heard the name Ultron in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was jarring. It was so jarring to hear that spoken in this world that we've spent 3 episodes getting used to what the status quo is in this world. To hear someone just straight up say, like, your brother was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? It was just like,
right.
Oh, that's right.
So Geraldine definitely knows more than she's letting on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think she's remembering more.
Or that, yes.
Because all I was seeing on her face was knowledge and birth and memory.
Mm-hmm.
Not like putting pieces together. Like this information was crawling to the front of her brain from some unknown place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Wanda went super powered mama. Like what Geraldine just said threatened her and her children.
Mm-hmm.
And from his suit.
Happens all the time. Every meeting that I'm in.
It was a sunrise of fur. As soon as she said that, no matter what Geraldine said or did, Geraldine was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, boom. I know, and I know Wanda brought up her brother, right? So that's not the problem. It's that Geraldine knew something more, and that can't happen.
And that's happening right outside. Agnes and Herb, not Herb. Is that Herb?
Yeah, it's Herb.
Agnes and Herb.
Yeah.
Are
who's not her husband? I keep thinking because she references her husband.
She references her husband Ralph. Yeah,
Ralphie. And I was like, oh, is that who this is? But no, this Ralphie guy just exists as a joke so far.
He's like Vera on Cheers or Maris on Frasier. You never actually see him.
Right. Maybe
so when and then they're like, well, she doesn't have a family. She doesn't have a home.
She doesn't have a husband.
She doesn't have a husband.
She doesn't have a home. But like, what does that mean? She literally doesn't have a house on the street.
That's what it seems like.
Where she came from.
Right. And she came very suddenly, and she does stick out as like, the only Black woman that we've seen in this town.
That's
right? Like, it was jarring when you saw her in that meeting. It's just like, oh, hello. Like, she didn't feel like she was part of the thing. And she was like adjusting to the reality when you first meet her.
Right. But so now we are seeing that. So now that means, I think, all of the interactions that like Herb and Agnes and any other character, I think, have, or maybe just sort of the core, like all the adults that were at the talent show. I think any interactions that Wanda and Vision have had with any of them are now suspect to being part of some grander conspiracy. Like even the meeting that Vision went to, like those guys, they knew where they needed it to lead to or something like that.
Well, I think they were trying to talk. I think when Wanda and Vision aren't around, I think they're able to have more agency over themselves. They can't escape. but obviously they're aware that they're trapped. And so when Vision comes in and say, hey, I want to talk about, security and stuff like that, they're, oh, we don't really talk, we're not talking about anything. And that's probably because Wanda knows whatever Vision knows, because Wanda created this Vision most likely, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're like afraid to let him know, and he's probably constantly doing this, constantly trying to wake up. And I'm wondering how long this has been going on. How many TV shows have they lived through? Right. What, and so like they know, like, don't say anything, because then she's gonna freak out and reset reality again. And here we're gonna go to another show. This could be years after Endgame for all we know. Like we could go through a bit of a time jump here, and they've been trapped in here for years in her dark, twisted fantasy world.
Yeah, we don't really know.
Right.
Yeah.
So because it now to me says that Herb and Agnes are, if not there purposefully, have just know what is actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that whispering and knowing that Monica shouldn't be in, I'm sorry, Geraldine, we don't know that she's Monica yet. It's just in the credits. They know that she shouldn't be in there with Wanda alone.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like they're not just byproducts of this other reality, this sitcom that Wanda has presumably created, that they are prisoners in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or they're by choice.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe, or maybe there was a choice at first, but that choice has been taken away from them. Where
the doctor definitely didn't seem like he was there by choice. He was saying it was difficult to escape.
Right. The doctor. I don't think every other person in the show
is real.
Is a member of the group that Agnes and Herb are a part of.
That's fair. Yeah.
We need the doctor for story, and so I think sometimes those characters get invented for it. And maybe you're right. Maybe like Maui's has said earlier, like she has literally taken over this town of Westview and made it this bubble. And so those characters are there, but there's something special about Agnes and Herb and some of that inner circle of
So we're right at the end here. Let's get through the rest of this recap so that we can talk a little bit more freely and talk about, because we're almost an hour here, so I want to wrap up soon. So Thomas, take us through the last. There's so much happening in this episode.
Yeah.
Take us through the last scene.
Yeah. So Agnes goes off, leaving Vision and Herb sort of unresolved, and finally, Vision comes back in, and Wanda is back staring at the babies, and Geraldine's gone.
Well, prior to that, though, she noticed Geraldine's necklace, which has a sword on it.
Which
so
I don't think
symbol coming up.
I don't think it was there before. I think that was a signifier that Wanda placed on her.
Mm.
Like Wanda marked her as sword, and so then a sword symbol appeared on her.
That could be,
yeah.
So it could be that reality kind of peeling away and seeing what's underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vision comes back in. Geraldine's gone, and Wanda has the classic, nearly serial killer, like somebody who snapped and did something terrible look on her face while being, benevolent over her children. And I feel like the transition is important. I can't remember specifically. How do we get to
so he comes back in. So Vision comes back in and says, "Oh, where did Geraldine go?" And she said, "Oh, she had to rush away." And they're all smiley. And then as they're smiling, looking at the babies, our aspect ratio changes from that old school ratio to a 16:9. Like we widen out.
The screen is expanding all of a sudden.
And then we see outside. We see the outside of the town limit of Westview. And we are in modern day, and we're in the actual MCU. And we see her shoot out.
Yeah.
Right, and we see
an energy field
through this energy field that like a staticky television almost, and she goes tumbling down, and she's all out of it. all of these vehicles pull up, and then we pull back, and we see all of this like surveillance machinery and these huge like floodlights, like it's the X-Files, and we're hearing Daydream Believer, this creepy rendition of Daydream Believer, kind of like dreamily in
the actual rendition of Daydream Believer,
but like with like reverb, like it's down like a creepy hallway, you know, slowed down slightly, you know. And
we see a full-size version of the sword helicopter that we saw in the last episode as a toy,
and then credits,
and then credits. So a lot on a very, very good episode. Now, what's most interesting is that Geraldine is still in the same clothes.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's interesting. She's not in modern clothes. She's in those late 60s, early 70s attire. Hair still done the same way. You know. So things to look at as I'm thinking we're going to see somebody, you know, at some point go from the real world into this TV world and see how they have to do it.
And so presumably she's done this at least once already.
Right.
I say at least once because they said she doesn't have a home there. So here's what I think. I think that, Geraldine, right? We know that she, you know, from the credits, they don't know within the fiction of the world, but we know as observers by seeing the credits that this character is actually credited as Monica Rambeau, daughter of
Maria.
I can't remember, Maria Rambeau and Captain Marvel, all grown up because now we're out of the 90s. We're in the 2020s,
at least
presumably.
2023,
right? And she is now all grown up, agent of S.W.O.R.D., probably was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and now is moved over to S.W.O.R.D. now that S.W.O.R.D. has been created. We know that S.W.O.R.D. is called the Sentient Weapon Observance Response Division. Wanda's has some sort of psychotic break, right? Monica was sent in to try and get her out. I don't know how many times Monica has been able to shake out of the mind control. I think once Wanda and Vision are not too close, then you can kind of get some of your agency back and you remember stuff. But then once Wanda is thinking about you have to submit to whatever the reality is, right? And that's why they were able to talk more candidly to Vision. But they were afraid to talk too much to Vision because if they tip Vision off, that could potentially tip Wanda off. So they're afraid, and you know, and Herb is trying to be like, look, you know, it's because she's trying to, which makes me think that Geraldine has reached out to them when Wanda's not around. It's like, are you okay? We're trying to get you out. You know, how long have you been here? Trying to get as much information as possible, and then she leaves at the end of the day when Wanda and Vision go to sleep to report back out to S.W.O.R.D. That's my theory as far.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with that because it definitely seems like, while they don't quite understand who she is or why she's there, they know she does not fit. She doesn't belong there, and that's unsettling them.
Yes, I agree with that,
and that's why I think like the Doctor is probably just some poor bastard that's just stuck in there and doesn't know how to get out. But all of a sudden, Wanda needs a doctor for this episode, so then he gets pulled into the fiction.
Yeah.
He wakes up much like they did on that first episode, not knowing.
That's right, Joy. That's right, Joy.
You're very good. He wakes up that morning not knowing how or why everything's in color now, but it always has been this way, and he's always been a doctor. But if you were to probe him for it, he couldn't tell you where he went to medical school.
Right.
You know,
and all he really said was, "Oh, you're definitely pregnant." So, like,
he didn't really do much
medical expertise for what his role was in this story.
Yeah, which has to be horrifying for these people. Like when you start to think about like these people that are obviously actually people that are trapped, like now it becomes really dark. Like when you start to think about that, right? She's taken away their freedoms. They are trapped in here. They are prisoners in a world of her own making. Right. And, you know, she's going down a very, very dark path, you know, and she knows it. And whenever people try and hip her to it and like, hey, you know, what you're doing is wrong, she reasserts it, erases your memory, shoots you out of the, you know, whatever she has to do to stay in this world where she can be with the love of her life and have the perfect idyllic
children.
Right. And the reason that we're getting all these sitcoms is because this is probably what she watched in Sokovia. This is probably why she knows how to speak English, is because she was raised on a bunch of silly sitcoms, decades older than what she actually would have been watching, because, she grew up in a third world country.
Right. I'm surprised we haven't gotten a Sesame Street episode.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it's how kids all over the world learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think really strong episode. Do we want to give rankings?
Oh, we want to give rankings. Eric, why don't you kick us off today?
I really liked this one a lot. And I felt like this was definitely connecting more of the dots for me as to what exactly is going on. And I felt I had more of my bearings in terms of the overall direction of this, while still being intrigued enough to want to see, like, am I right? Am I wrong? Like, how crazy is this going to get? So I think this definitely, I would give this like at least 4 out of 5. Like, that's the rating scale you were going with?
Yeah, we go out of 5. Out of 5 dopes. Yeah, so 4 out of 5. That's a very good score. Joey said we need Snuffy on WandaVision. I see if I'm limber enough. So I got these Sesame Street Bombas socks. So these are the Big Bird edition.
Big Bird.
Yeah, I have 8 of them. They're amazing. I have Big Bird, Grover, Elmo, Cookie Monster, the Count, Bert, Ernie, and Big Bird.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch. Very good. What about you, Maui?
So I think this is the strongest of the first 3 of the 3 episodes that we've seen thus far, for sure. Like I said, there was one moment, the one gag with the stork I thought went on a little too long, but that did not long enough to like make me knock too much off of this. It really propels forward the story, and I'm loving the Lynchian, atmosphere of this. So I will say I will give this episode a 4.7.
Okay.
4.7.
I'm trying to remember.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I said last week. I think I gave episode 2 like a 4.5. Because I think you gave it like a 4.3.
Yeah, I was somewhere in between you, Eric. Yeah. I think you gave it like a 3 point something.
I've been doing like round numbers mostly because I'm new to this. I didn't know what the rating scale was, to be quite honest.
Yeah, so I was somewhere between the two of you. I was, so I'm definitely higher on this one overall.
On this one, and I am too. That's why I was trying to remember specifically. We don't want the fans going back and telling me you rated it the same. It's in the wiki. I definitely think it, but I also think, and the reason I'm going to rank it, I was going to say 4.7 along with you, Maui. And the reason it goes that high is because I also think that if you were to just pull this out of the other 2 episodes and watch it on its own, there's enough information in it for you to get to realize that to not have needed the first 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like she goes, her name's Geraldine. We don't need to know that she was there, and they had a little bit of a connection there. They clearly have a relationship, right? There's clearly those are their neighbors, and there's clearly something wrong with them, right? She's pregnant, but it clearly is not a normal pregnancy. All those things are in this episode. They're enhanced if you have seen the other 2 episodes, right? But really stand on their own, and I think those 2 things make it close to, almost as close to 5 as I'm ready to call it. But 4.7 I think is a solid. I got to give myself room. Who knows? Next episode could have Doctor Strange in it for all we know.
I do think we'll see him before this is over. That is a prediction of mine.
That is mine too, because this is going to lead into Multiverse of Madness, and I think, so I think something about, like, I don't think we're going to get the full end of this story without Multiverse of Madness.
Interesting. Okay. I was just going to say, I think there's definitely a reason that Disney Plus released the first 2 together, but then only chose to do 1 this week. Because as you said, it does stand on its own better. And the first two, you really needed them both together to get the full picture of what was happening.
Sometimes you have, I think, I don't think it's them not being able to tell a story effectively. I think, like a lot of TV series, a lot of their first 2 episodes sort of work as a 1 hour movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to really get you into the world, half an hour is not enough time.
No.
No. I'm thinking Stargate. Like, the first 2 episodes of Stargate are sold as their own movie, right? The Children of the Gods is part 1 and part 2, and you could stop at part 1 and then come back later, but the story's not finished.
Mm-hmm.
So a good episode all around.
Very, very good episode. Excellent job with the recapping, Thomas. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next week when we go over episode 4. I'm very curious what people think is going on, what people's predictions are. Do you think Mephisto is behind this? Like I said, it sounds like everybody in this group here, we all think that this is Wanda and not some otherworldly hell demon king doing the thing. But I'm curious to see what other people think, or even if you don't know, what are your wild theories, and what are you hoping to see? Who are you hoping to see? I heard today that Evan Peters might have filmed some stuff for this, who was the Fox Quicksilver.
Really?
That's very interesting. I have no idea what the context is for it or who he would be playing. Sure. Would he be coming in as Fox Universe Quicksilver? Maybe he comes in as a grown-up Speed, and she's like, "Oh, you look so much like there could be so much stuff they could be doing." No idea. Do you think this is going to bring mutants back? Bring mutants into the MCU? We don't know. So let's all speculate wildly together. Thank you so much, Eric, Thomas, for reviewing with me.
Eric, I gotta just real quick. Eric, is there a way that people can sort of reach out to you? Do you have like Twitter or something like that?
I have just Facebook, Eric Lindbergh, right on Facebook.
If people thought you had interesting ideas or something like that, I'm on. I know that I'm on Twitter at tsquiz42. TSQUIZZ42, ultimate answer. If you want to tweet at me or something, I do check all the Reflect Media stuff and posts. We have our Discord server.
We got to build that up. We're in 2021 is going to be the year to the Discord server. So check out our Discord server. Hop in there. We start having some discussions about that for sure. We'll post a link up for it on the Reflect page. And you can follow me at any of the Reflect Media outlets on Twitter or on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. Or if you want to follow me directly, Mr. Maui Jones on IG and at Maui Thoughts on Twitter. So thank you so much. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye.